When we think of Spanish, we imagine Spain and Latin America. But there's a question that surprises a lot of people. Why is Spanish spoken so well in Africa? There's no single reason. It was because of colonization, commercial and cultural contact, historical migrations, and more recently because of education and cultural diplomacy. In Equatorial Guinea, Spanish is still an official language. And in other areas of the continent, the language left its mark, like Morocco, Western Sahara, or the Sahrawi camps in Tindouf. The first thing that needs to be clarified is something important. Not all of the presence of Spanish in Africa has the same origin. Sometimes it was a direct result of Spanish rule. Other times, it arose through contact between peoples, through school education, or even through the history of communities expelled from the Iberian Peninsula. That's why, to truly understand this topic, you have to look at the map of Africa piece by piece. The main case is Equatorial Guinea, because it's the only African country where Spanish became established as the official language of the state. Its connection with Spain began in the 18th century when Portugal ceded the islands of Fernando Po and Annobon to Spain, as well as rights over part of the Gulf of Guinea coast. Later, during the colonial partition of Africa, at the end of the 19th century, that control was finally established in the territory we now know as Equatorial Guinea. Over time, Spanish became the language of administration, education, and public life. After independence in 1968, there were very difficult periods and even times when Spanish was persecuted. But after 1979, the language was introduced as the language of the state, administration, and education. The Constitution recognized it as an official language, and later French was added in 1998 and Portuguese in 2010. Although different studies indicate that Spanish continues to be the main axis of institutional and cultural cohesion in the country. Equatorial Guinea not only preserves Spanish due to historical heritage, it has also institutionalized it. The Equatorial Guinean Academy of the Spanish Language was founded in 2013, and since 2016 has been part of the Association of Academies of the Spanish Language. That means that the Spanish of Equatorial Guinea is no longer seen as a rarity, but as a legitimate variety within the Spanish-speaking world. On the other hand, in Morocco, Spanish also left a mark, an important mark, but due to a different combination of factors. One of them was the Spanish Protectorate in northern Morocco, which lasted from 1912 to 1956, and promoted the presence of the language in cities and administrative, educational, and commercial spaces in northern Morocco. This was reinforced by Spain's geographic proximity and contact across the Mediterranean. But Morocco also has an even older history, that of Judeo-Spanish or Sephardic. After the expulsion of the Jews from the Hispanic kingdoms in 1492, many Sephardic communities settled in North Africa, especially in Morocco, and brought with them varieties of Spanish that survived over time. Today, Spanish continues to have visibility in Morocco, mainly due to education and cultural activities. The Cervantes Institute maintains an important network in the country. Rabat coordinates branches and extensions in several cities, and there are also centers in Tangier and Tétouan, among others. That shows that Morocco continues to be one of Africa's main hubs for contact with Spanish. Before continuing, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on the bell so you're notified when there's a new video. Another key chapter is about Ifni and Western Sahara. In Ifni, in the south of Morocco, the Spanish presence was shorter, but it left a clear mark. Studies on colonial heritage place it in the territory's Spanish period between 1934 and 1969.
9.
In Western Sahara, the presence was even stronger. The Spanish colonial occupation dates back to the late 19th century, and various studies date it from 1884 until the abandonment of the territory in 1975. During those decades, Spanish served as the administrative language, the language of education, and the language of contact with colonial institutions. But the language did not disappear completely. In the Sahrawi refugee camps of Tindouf in Algeria, Spanish has remained alive as a language of education, political memory, and international relations. What about the language and translation? What about the translation? What remains of the colonial past if not a part of the cultural intensity of many Sahrawis, coexisting with Arabic, Hassaniya, and other languages around them? In several African countries, especially those with a Francophone tradition, Spanish entered through the school system. A clear case is Côte d'Ivoire, where Spanish was incorporated into the educational system during the French colonial period as a foreign language. And after independence, it remained in the curriculum. That pattern is also observed in other countries of sub-Saharan Africa. That means that in many places in Africa, Spanish is not spoken because they were Spanish colonies, but because it became a useful language for studying, working, or connecting with the Spanish-speaking world. Senegal, Ivory Coast, Cameroon, or Nigeria are now in the institutional orbit of Spanish, not because they have become Spanish-speaking countries. Spanish has become a language to study and connect with the Spanish-speaking world. And in other countries, the growing interest in the language is to study and connect with the Spanish-speaking world. Now, the big question: are there currently plans to expand Spanish in Africa? The correct answer is yes, but not in a territorial or colonial sense, rather in an educational, cultural, and institutional sense. The current expansion of Spanish in Africa is happening through teaching centers, official exams, university cooperation, publishing, and networks of Hispanists. A very clear example is Senegal. The Cervantes Institute now has a headquarters in Dakar, and its own documentation presents it as the first major center of the institution in that country.
Subsahariana. Además,
the current Cervantes network assigns academic and examination work from Dakar to countries such as Benin, Cape Verde, Cameroon, Ivory Coast, Gambia, Equatorial Guinea, Mali, and Nigeria. And it also maintains a branch in Nouakchott, Mauritania. That shows that Spanish is indeed growing in Africa, but it's through education, certification, and cultural presence, not through political dominance. Furthermore, Spanish not only survived in specific territories, but it also managed to enter high-level institutional spaces. The most important case is the African Union, whose own regulatory framework establishes that Spanish is one of the official languages of the organization and its institutions, along with
árabe, el inglés, el francés, el portugués y el swahili.
That presence was not accidental. It was due both to the international weight of Spanish and to the fact that African countries, especially Equatorial Guinea, incorporated it into continental diplomatic life. Even the Pan-African Parliament decided to officially recognize Spanish as one of its working languages. And you? Did you know these facts about the origin of Spanish in Africa? What do you think about the language expansion programs on this continent? Leave us your opinion in the comments. And that's all for today. If you like this video, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe to this channel. I also encourage you to turn on the notification bell so you'll know when there's a new video. See you soon.